Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Hey. Right, great. Let's see. I am Danu is present. Jan Johnson is present. Candace Craig is present. Tim Bresnahan and David Crawford. So let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a quorum. So let me start this meeting off at 6 o'clock. On March 6, 2023. I'd like to call the PARAB meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome Candace Craig, our new alternate member to PARAB.
Thank
was
you.
unanimously approved by City Council. So welcome, Candace.
Thank you. Thank you for your letter of rec.
You bet. You bet. I hope you didn't check my grammar too closely, okay?
I didn't see it.
All righty, great.
Perfect.
All right, great. In terms of our approval of agenda, what I'd like to do is amend our agenda to move the old business, which is the Soda Springs master plan revisions, to follow public comments, not on the agenda. And that way, Robin and Mia, I can utilize your time best served. And if those of you who are present can vote to agree to that, to amend the agenda, to move Soda Springs Park Old Business to follow public comments, I would take a vote on that.
I think I'll second that motion.
Great. I have Tim to second that. Anybody opposed to that? Okay, then it will be so moved to be approved. The second thing would be the approval of the minutes from February 6, 2023. Hopefully you all got to review those minutes there. And I am open to someone making a motion to approve those minutes from February 6, 2023.
Yeah, I'm gonna
approve those, Danny.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, great. Who was the first one to approve?
I think it was me, Colin.
Very good. Thank you, Colin.
You bet.
Okay, great. Colin and then Tim. Alrighty. So then, can we move on to public comments not on the agenda? I am looking here to see. All right, we have a taker. Shannon, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, I am Shannon Solomon. I live at 600 Crystal Hills Boulevard. And I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about something I'm thinking about.
Hold on, sorry.
Yep.
Hold on.
No, Stella.
Chris is calling me. Go ahead, Chris. Are you on the road?
Yeah, I was trying to call in for the meeting, but it's saying that the meeting hasn't started.
Oh, well, the meeting started. I don't know. I'm not that high tech. So I have Chris on the line here, and she's on the road coming home from work, and she was trying to get online. Can somebody help her? I don't know how to work all this stuff.
I'll try. I'll try again.
All right. Okay. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
saw her name
everybody.
pop up to know.
Yeah, I know. I did too. Maybe she lost contact. Anyway, I hope she can get back on. Anyway, Shannon, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Shannon Solomon, 600 Crystal Hills Boulevard. I'm a member of OSAC committee, but this has nothing to do with OSAC. This is a totally separate deal. I just wanted to throw a little caveat out here. I have my 4-year-old with me. My wife is running a little late. So if there's interruption, sorry for the casualness. It's hard to talk on the phone with a 4-year-old around. So what I wanted to present, maybe a presentation. I think I'm going to have to come back and do this more formally at some point. But I'm a beekeeper, and we have several guys in town that are beekeepers. And there is a park directly behind my house called Deer Valley Nature Park. I don't know. have a feeling some people don't even know it's a park, but it's a park. And it doesn't have any trails. It doesn't have anything going on in there. And we've been discussing casually the last couple of years of setting up beehives in there, as almost city sponsored type beehives. We're not asking for anything from the city. We have several people that will do it. I've talked to CPW. They said they would supply solar electric fences for free. I've got a lot of people on board to do labor. Yeah, Danu, sorry.
Who's the CPW? What is
Colorado
that?
Parks and Wildlife.
Okay,
I talked to the game warden for our area. Her name is Cassidy English, and she's totally down with it. We've made what we call the West Side Beekeepers Association, which is basically drinking beer and talking about our bees. But we want to kind of tighten that up and make it a little more formal. And I wanted to see what you guys thought. My initial opinion, my initial thoughts were I was going to survey all the neighbors that abut that park and see what they think about it. I wanted to kind of get some direction on you guys, what to do. What do you guys want to see before I try to do like some kind of formal ask here? I'm sorry, that was kind of word vomit, but I'm trying to use my time
oh, that's
quickly.
good, that's good.
When you say your electric fences or solar fences, do you mean around the entire park or just around?
It's a very small footprint. It's literally like just 3 feet around a hive.
Okay,
My neighbor has the electric fence and I bet it's a 6x6 wire that goes around it. It's for bears. So,
okay. Yeah, that's fair. I just want to make sure it didn't go
Yeah,
around.
yeah. no, that's a good question.
Because I know that park and I like that it's there.
Yeah, it's a great park. It's a cool
Yeah.
little open space. There's not a lot going on in there.
No.
I figured it'd be a really cool opportunity to do this. I know we have the pollinator project. I think we would kind of for the, I don't want to say, well, I mean, the lip service of charitable honey, you're not harvesting a ton of honey. But I think we would make a point to donate whatever we harvested, give back to the community. My thing is, I think it'd be cool for Manitou to get behind this, and just kind of show people that we're doing it. So,
What about dangers of people getting stung by bees? How
that's
habituated?
where, so I've had bees on my deck, literally on my deck for the last 5 years. And no one has ever been stung except for me when I tried to get into them without a bee suit because I saw it on YouTube and the guy looked really cool doing it and it didn't work for me. That's the only time I've ever been stung. Anybody's ever been stung. Of course, there's a danger of people getting stung by bees. That's one of the reasons I was going to put it in the very middle of the park so no one was more affected than someone else. And obviously if the neighbors don't like it, I will stop in my tracks.
Honeybees.
And then could you tell us what the benefit would be to the park?
Well,
It's located in there?
it would squelch a lot of conversations we have with Pollinator Club about how we should do more pollinating. Anytime you have bees, it benefits the ecosystem of the park, the stuff that's already there. As I said, there are no trails. Hey, Stella, come on. So yeah, essentially it's for the environment more than anything.
Okay, so Shannon, what would you need from PARAB? Would you need some kind of recommendation from us? Would you need?
I don't know. I wanted to ask you guys what I needed from you, and what exactly you wanted from me. I'm assuming this would have to go to city council with some kind of recommendation from you guys. So I don't know.
Okay, Jan, you have a question?
Hey, Shannon.
Hey, Jan.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I like the idea. I lived by Ben Engelhart for a long time. I still get honey from him, so I
Ben
certainly
is
am.
the one, me and Ben are the ones kind of doing this. So,
I suspected. And I like the idea of it. I would like you to reference the Plan Manitou and just hook in a couple of things. Doesn't have to be a huge formal app, but try to hook in something like that. And then, I don't know, Danu, get on our schedule for what, April? Because I can see that it would be beneficial, but I think we should be a bit more focused on where you fit, and I think it could very easily, and I'm in favor of it, but I don't know. John, what do you think? John Stark?
I think that would be a good approach to bring it back and find a way to tie it in, as you said, to Plan Manitou. And you know, you can hear some more thoughts from PARAB about what they think the benefits would be, whether or not it would be possible.
and I know we need to get a little more formal with an application or a presentation of some sort. I just wanted to kind of break the ice with you guys.
Mhm. Well, we are all about pollinators. We are about our bee population and sustainability. So it's just saying generally, I don't think that PARAB would be opposed to that idea. I'm freely speaking for myself, but I know that pollinators is a huge, big part of something that we've incorporated within the PARAB umbrella, as well as the tree group. So, okay, well, so then I think, Jan, I think your idea about, you know, us discussing a little bit further, and maybe if you want to bring a few more people on board who might be interested, Shannon. To do
Yeah,
this
I've got
project.
quite a big group of neighbors and just beekeepers in general, and pollinators, people that are into the pollinating part. I think we'll have a pretty big group once we get everything rolling. I will not be able to make you guys' first meeting in April, but I can get everything together by May.
Okay,
So, and what I'll do is I'll also get on paper all the neighbors that touch that park, get their feelings on paper in some kind of survey form. So I'll get formal with it. I just wanted to see if there was any, I didn't want to go do all this stuff without you guys knowing I was doing it, first of all, and giving me somewhat of your blessing that you were interested. I didn't want to do it and you say, oh no, we're not interested.
well, let me ask our board, of my board that are here, is anybody opposed to that idea? And like, how many hives are you thinking of, Shannon?
You know, I don't know. We'd have to talk and see what's even sustainable up there.
Okay,
I think I would probably really rely heavily on CPW's recommendations, because they know how many hives will attract a nuisance bear. I don't want to put any other wildlife at harm. And I think that will be the key. If CPW says, hey, this is silly to have more than one, then I would do. And we also, I mean, I'm going to rely on donations and mini grants and such like that. I don't plan on doing anything except spending my labor on it. But hopefully I can, and I think I can get all these things worked up for free. So I do not know how many hives. I want a little footprint. I want really just to have the awareness that it can be done and that we're doing it and we did it together and we're taking that step. So.
okay, great.
This is Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Chris, you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
Bravo.
I'm in the
Hey, Chris.
car. I'm
Okay.
multitasking. I'm in favor. I think it's great, and I think it will, like Shannon was saying, kind of like check some boxes on like the pollinator stuff and show that we're making an effort, working in collaboration with communities and creating these opportunities for the bees and the plants. And yeah, I think it's cool. Thanks, Shannon, for bringing it to us.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and get your ducks in a row, Shannon, and then once you do that, why don't you come back and come visit us again and give us an update?
Awesome. I can't believe I pulled this off with 2 puppies, a big dog, and a 4-year-old. So it
Should
worked.
we
Wow.
put a reminder on this for, even though I know Shannon said that he wouldn't be ready next, or yeah, in April, should we put a reminder to make sure that this is on the agenda in May and we don't?
I
We
can
don't
get you
miss it.
guys a ton of information in April, Tim. I'm going to be in Mexico on your meeting though. So
Sure.
So maybe.
No, I also think it's a great idea. I know we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I full disclosure, I'm biased because I have a hive. I just got through my first season and it's been a net positive experience. And I've only gotten 1 spoonful of honey so far. It's just it's great for education. It's a fun kind of adult science project. I think this would be a great opportunity, not just for doing our part, so to speak, for pollination and the environment, but I think it would be a good educational opportunity as well, because this is it's a great backyard activity.
this is one thing I think that Manitou can truly, we do a lot of talk about being green and environment and all this. And I think this is something we can actually act on. And we can act on pretty quickly. A lot of bang for no buck.
So Shannon, if you're ready to rock and roll on May, is there another spokesperson if you're not going to be here in May?
I'll be here in May.
Oh,
I'm
you
here
will
in
be
May.
in May.
Yep. I'll
Okay.
get you guys more. I will get information out to Danu to disseminate as I'm doing these things. And then in May, what I'll try to do is I'll even try to get, I think this will be, I don't know if you want me to do this for you guys or for council, but I think Cassidy, the wildlife officer, could help me do some kind of more formal presentation to you guys. So you'd have someone, you know, a legal authority. So.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and put you down tentatively for May on May's
Yeah.
agenda, okay?
We can do that for sure. That's no problem. So,
Okay, all righty. All right, and then you and I can stay in touch, okay? And you can kind of keep me abreast of what's going on and,
of course. Yep.
okay?
Hey guys, thanks a lot for everything you do. We appreciate you.
All right, great. All
Have a
right,
good
thank
one.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Shannon. Okay, is there anybody else who's got any public comments then that are not on the agenda? Okay, if not, then let's move on to the old business of the Soda Springs Park Master Plan revision. Mia and, yeah, go ahead. Chris?
Again, sorry. I guess I'm not sure if this falls under public comment or the master plan, but I did have a member of the public contact me by email with some suggestions about the grass in the Soda Springs Park, where we were going to do the turf, but now we're going to do grass. And they have some suggestions about specific types of grass and, like, I don't know when. Anyway.
Okay,
I don't know
well,
if you-
yeah, well, let's talk about this right now then. I'll have Mia and Robin start presenting and then you can just jump in when we get to that section, okay?
Okay, sounds
All
great.
right, okay. Robin, Mia,
All right. Nice to see you all again. So we provided an updated master plan that we want to review with you tonight. And there was also a memorandum that was some information that we provided for the water feature, which was something that council specifically requested some more information on. So I was going to start with the water feature discussion, if that works for everybody, and then we can kind of go through the master plan.
yeah, if you can sum it up real quick, because I think that
Yeah,
the majority of us were not in favor of the water feature. And
Ye-
I realized that you had to provide this information for city council.
sure. Yeah, I think, you know, it was really an exercise just
Yeah,
to really provide, you know, there's different options that you can do for the water feature, how the water is fed to the water feature, whether or not the water is treated, recirculated. So I went into the pros and cons of that. Obviously, maintenance is a big thing to consider when you're designing a water feature. And the more, basically, the more complicated the system, obviously, the more challenging it is to maintain, or not necessarily challenging, but you just have to have staff that really knows how to, check the chemicals, make sure that, things are staying in the safe range. And, it's just a little bit of added maintenance to it versus, there's I called it the one-time use domestic water, which would feed a water feature, and then it would go out into the sanitary system, which is probably not the most sustainable use for water, but would require less complicated mechanical system. So it's kind of weighing that. Basically, it's like there's not a one answer until we were to get into the nitty-gritty of designing the water feature. I know that the cost of the water feature, that I had provided, was in question. So I reached out to Colorado Hardscapes, which I had provided some of the water features that they've installed. They're a very reputable local company. And just to give a guide of, it really can range. I think one of the things that's challenging to fully nail down the cost too is, is it a custom water feature? If it's a soda bottle, something that was really unique and had kind of character specific to the park, which is, what the original 2017 master plan was thinking, that can be an art, an art piece. It's collaborated with a design of a water feature, which is not uncommon, at all. And so that really can just depend on what the materials are and who's designing it and what the cost of that artist would be, down to very simple. It's a basin with some water jets that spray up. And so through this document, if you had a chance to look at it, you could just see some different complexities of water features. And, in order to kind of hone the cost, we'd really have to get further into the design of the water feature. But he was really helpful in providing, kind of some estimates of if this were installed in 2025, assuming that, it won't be this year, approximately what that would be. But other things to consider, and that's why there's some notes on here, is, a mechanical room is in the building nearby. We don't have a building, so we need to put mechanical equipment in the ground at Soda Springs. It would need to be in a vault, because we have to be really careful about what we're putting above grade, because we're in the floodplain, and anything we put above grade, whether it be a vault that's partially above grade or, a basin or anything like that, we need to offset that and remove soil or whatever it is somewhere else in the park or really close to the vicinity of that. So just something, anything can be possible, just, things that make it a little harder to kind of dial in that cost until we know that.
Hey-
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tanu.
No, Robin. They, I believe it was last year, they installed brand new gas lines running across that west end of the Soda Springs Park Pavilion,
Okay,
and they ran into water
yes.
on that corner that was closest to the creek, okay? And I'm assuming that those gas lines have to be buried at least 36 inches below grade. Is that a safe assumption?
That's probably a safe assumption. Sometimes gas might be a little shallower, but yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, so can we sort of kind of assume, without doing a core drilling test to see the depth of our water table there, that perhaps that water table in Soda Springs Park would be 3 feet below grade before we hit water?
I would
then-
assume that the water table is pretty high, yeah.
And then I don't know what the configurations or the specs for that underground vault would entail, or all of that stuff that you just talked about, all the underground stuff.
Yeah, so what you have to do in that case is basically you need to structurally anchor the vault so it doesn't float, is
Right.
one of the things, which certainly can be done. And I did discuss that because that would be my assumption too. Danu is, given how close we are
Yes.
to Fountain Creek, that the water table would be pretty high.
So would it be reasonable to think that cost estimate that you gave is probably on the super low end, considering all of those factors?
Yeah, I put in at the end of this, again, because I think they were, not, they were kind of wanting some backup as to why that cost was what I had provided before. And in the end, I think that range, in talking to Colorado Hardscapes is not out of range, frankly.
Right.
Considering some of the things that we have going on in the park. So I put, 400,000 to $1 million still is probably the likely range.
And that perhaps is on the lower end.
Oh yeah, I mean, it could get as expensive as, it could certainly go up from there. Like a lot of these water features that are in here, they don't include the cost of the sanitary line, the storm connection, the water line, where that's coming from, the tap fees that may be required for the water, as well as sanitary. So those are just costs that, aren't included in this number. And power as well. So, getting power, within the mechanical system, of course, but getting the power to the mechanical system for the water feature, just because we'd have to really dig into where they're all around there. I think it's all possible. It's just those kind of costs can also contribute to this, to the, how expensive the water feature is.
Plus that whole design of the bottling plant, not the bottling plant, but the Mineral Springs bottle that represents Soda Springs. That would be like an artist extraordinaire sculpture, the thing that would have to happen. So I guess what I'm thinking is perhaps we need to kind of bump that number up from 400 to start from $1 million and go up from there. Is that is that unreasonable?
I mean, if they were to do something simple like this,
Which it doesn't sound like that's what they want.
And some jets, we might be in that 400,000 range. But if we want something, and again, it depends on, and these are things we'd have to talk to the city about. Maintenance, obviously, what the recirculating system entails, size of vaults also, given that it would have to be buried, has other requirements for how you access it. So they have to be OSHA trained in order to access the vault. And so again, that just, we would want to make sure the design also complements the maintenance and the team that the city has. Yeah, Jan, go ahead.
I think on the other hand, Robin, it's maybe a really good idea to have something on the low ball end and to see what it is compared to accessing the creek, which is where we thought the joy could come with water anyway. And if this is on the low ball end, and this, even with what's possible, would still have to have multiple hundreds of thousands added to it just to get what's needed. I think that's a reasonable thing as long as there's explanation. So
sure,
I hear what you're saying, Danu, but I'd still think it's better to have some of the low ball stuff. And in fact, if you wanted something that's possible, but is it something you want to highlight what our centerpiece park is?
Yeah, and maybe what I can do, Jan, is elaborate on this memo by just, we have this information, but say, this is what a $400,000 feature may include. And it's simply a basin. It has a few jets. It's not a it's not a recirculating system. In addition, you would have to add X, Y, Z.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? I can't see you guys, so just go ahead and speak up.
No, I think this is the exact information that we were looking for.
Okay, yeah, so I can elaborate a little bit on there, hone this memo a little bit before we meet back with the city council group.
Yeah, and I wonder, should we be prepared to offer a like a compromise solution? I know that at one point we had talked about, making a more custom, playground structure, even including like the soda bottle, and kind of steered away from that due to cost, but also kind of the voting from other people that looked at it. But I wonder if maybe something like that might be attractive, as opposed to other Pottery Barn-ish structures, to quote city council.
Are you suggesting, Tim, something else in the park or that may carry a, special character for the park?
Yeah, exactly. Something that necessarily isn't a water feature, but maybe evokes that idea, particularly the sense of place that I think was mentioned. And I didn't have the benefit of sitting through the entire meeting. I was called away, but I know that was something that was brought up as well. I think, especially if we kind of held up cost comparison and maintenance comparisons, it might be helpful in this context.
So Tim, are you
Not-
thinking
maybe-
about something that Steve Wood would do, or someone locally that would be a mimicking of the Mineral Springs bottle, or?
No. I know I'm
What do you
talking
mean?
about. I'm talking about like a something big, not a local artist sculpture. I'm talking about the type of like, play structure, granted on our scale, but closer to the idea of like, if you guys have seen the climbing structure that's near the Denver Children's Museum, it's right across I-25 from the stadium. Something like that. That's the closest thing I can think of in Colorado. I mean, that's a much larger scale than what we'd be talking about, but that type of custom, whimsical, very interesting, type of structure. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's like you climb up in the structure and across and down, and it's also visually significant even from I-25.
Yeah, obviously we wouldn't be talking about that kind of scale, but
Right.
that's obviously a very unique piece. It's eye-catching. I mean, anytime I drive by that, my kids try to crash the car. And I almost do too, because that's not the safest place to be looking over your shoulder. But anyway.
Well, do we want to keep that in mind as we review the master plan?
Yeah,
Well,
wasn't that one of our, wasn't something like that in one of the recommendations when we were originally looking at different options?
well, here's the one kind of problem that I see with deviating from the plan that's been approved and accepted by city council is what was submitted as our phase 2 details all these things that we're looking at right now, that I'm looking at right now on my page. I think it's going to complicate things if we deviate too far away from what was spec'd in, because it'll affect the cost.
No, Danu, affecting the cost is obvious, but I mean, we're presenting this is something that was specifically asked for. Forget about cost, but a water feature that satisfies the specs that we were given would be significantly expensive and have costs that go on. And I think we're all in agreement about our reluctance to go down that road. And I would encourage you and everyone else to maybe be open-minded to making a change to try to satisfy as much as, like I said, it wasn't the greatest experience having to sit through that meeting and feel like we were being dressed down. And I only got 10% of it. But I think coming back with something that does evoke more of a sense of place, similar to the compromise option could, I don't know, it could be helpful. I'm just trying to satisfy the ask that came from council that doesn't involve an expensive water feature that will go on and be expensive, forever.
Tim, I don't think we can do that since the park, the play area has already been approved and that's going forward. We cannot change that at this point. You're going to have to put it someplace else.
Right. Thank you.
Well-
That's what I was trying to say, Jen.
Yeah, anyway, there's a waiver for, look, I appreciate what you're saying, but there's a waiver for everything. And until you're actually, purchasing supplies and putting a shovel in the ground, I imagine things can be changed. But anyway, I've said my part.
Robin, Mia?
All right, should we review the master plan we've made some updates based on the council meeting, and then I think it's a good time to, talk about that to
Yes.
Tim and anybody who has some ideas about it. So the first big comment was about the amount of concrete or hard surface in the park or in the plan, and the parking kind of went hand in hand. And so based on what we heard from them, is they wanted to limit the amount of concrete and not have parking in the park unless it was just for a quick delivery and then like ambulances or something like that. So we've made that change throughout the master plan. And the only place we have concrete, I'll point those areas out. Everywhere else that you see kind of this color would be Crusher Fines paving with a concrete edge to it, similar to what we have in the phase 1 area. One of the things that we have shown in here and interested to get some feedback from you is this plaza that we had in the 2017 master plan. There was a couple things that we had. One was we had a wider pedestrian bridge, which didn't come up in the last council meeting, but did in January, but did come up in the one back in October. So I just wanted to throw it out there. We're not showing that bridge to be replaced. I know that that's a pretty significant cost in order to do that, but the reason that was on the plan originally was just to provide an accessible access from town on this side, because this bridge and this crossing is not accessible and would be
ADA
Yeah.
accessible. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So right now we're leaving that bridge as is, but wanted to get your feedback on that because it didn't come back up in the meeting, the council meeting, but do want to be conscious of that having been a conversation before with that group.
Yeah.
Showing a plaza at the end of that bridge, which I think one of the, like Tim spoke about, was, one of the comments was the sense of place. And I think, we can talk about that a little bit, but this plaza, we were thinking, I think one of the things that would be nice if this park is able to get fully developed is the continuity of materials will bring, the character of the park up from where it is now, which I think will be a pretty big impact to the community, similar to what happened in phase 1. So this is shown as concrete. So this area would be concrete. And this would kind of be another little space that would, basically deliver people to different parts of the park if they were to come across this bridge or vice versa. This is where, if there were a water feature, the water feature would go. We're not showing the water feature in the master plan right now. We did call it a Soda Springs art sculpture, which could be anything, but we thought it would be a great place for a significant feature of some sort that could be added at, in the future, or so we're showing that. And then again, Crusher Fines paths that go up to the play area in a couple locations that we were we really kind of studied this of if we're converting this to turf, you know, our goal is to try to make the natural turf as successful as possible. And so thinking about how people move as best as we can and providing the pathways for that. Also, we have those existing boulders that are out there and, you know, growing turf around them or trying to get irrigation to spray around them wouldn't be very successful. And so we thought about that too. So kind of you'd have this wider swath around these boulders that exist that again delivers you over to the play area. And then we did remove the plaza at the front of the pavilion. That was a comment that we heard, I think, from a couple of them. And so we do have a crusher finds path again that leads over to the playground and then provides, you know, accessible route around the front of the pavilion and then up over towards the restroom. The other concrete paving we are showing is just where there is currently asphalt. I think maybe it's a combination of asphalt and concrete in this area adjacent to the pavilion, providing kind of a nice hard surface if you needed to pull an ambulance or something like kind of an emergency vehicle up here. Otherwise, everything else shown is crusher finds paving, you know, with the exception, obviously we have this existing concrete path that we were completing as part of the playground project. So that hasn't changed. Otherwise we narrowed, so you can see we narrowed this pretty significantly. I can zoom in here from what it was before, enough that you can pull vehicle in, service the Stanalets and get back out. But again, this is all crusher finds, so you'd still have that nice pathway for pedestrians that seem to cross through the park there, and then also, you know, deliver you over to the restroom and this east side where we have similar to what we were showing before, but an area of activation that has a variety of seating and we had noted before the flagstone pavers that are over there that they would be reset, and then we did continue them on into this plaza space as kind of using them as sort of signifying an eddy of with that particular paving material. And there are some games, you know, some table games with chess and a ping pong table. So similar to what we were showing before is what we have over there. We do have this transformer that's fairly large, and we do have to keep clearance around that. But with reducing that parking, we did provide kind of a nice place for landscape. And we were showing that this kind of beige-ish color with this layer on top would be more of a native kind of meadow mix, because I know, you know, ornamental plantings, we want to try to minimize to some degree. We want to use them appropriately in the spaces, but also not have a lot of that in the park, obviously for maintenance and stuff like that. So that was the thought there. Let's see. The other comment, yeah, was the synthetic turf. So just going back to this area, you know, I kind of explained how we got to the circulation here, but we are showing turf, natural turf that would be irrigated in these two areas on the cost estimate. And we spoke about it at the council meeting too, is that we would assume that we'll need to remove a portion of the soil in order to bring in adequate topsoil to help the success of that turf. And so we have shown that in there. And I think it was Chris who mentioned there are different varieties of sod out there. So certainly that's something when the project was ready to be implemented, we would want to, it's always evolving, which is good. So there's definitely some more sod species out there than there was even 5 years ago. So we would definitely want to make sure that we would specify a turf that's going to be as durable as possible. The things we always look at is, shade tolerance as well as heavy traffic and those kind of things. So there's different mixes within those sods that would help that be successful.
And somewhat drought resistant too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Any thought? So before we kind of keep going, any thoughts on the bridge?
I think you're on the right track to leave that out for now. If the city wants to go back and look at that after we get this phase done, the master plan done, they can go back and revisit that on their own, or tell PARAB that they want to revisit that. But I think we should leave that out of the plan for now, because I'm the way I feel about it. I want to be able to like focus on the things that we can really accomplish and achieve. And that bridge, you're right, is going to be a huge amount of money, and it'll just make this particular phase of the project just go on and on and on longer. And so I like what how you've narrowed it down to what you're showing us right now. Anyone else?
Have any thoughts?
Yeah, anybody else?
Robin, I have a couple questions. And sorry if I somehow missed these before, but can you just remind me what the main objective to the turf was? Why did, the objection to the turf in city council? And then also what happened to the hotly contested trash containers? Where did those end up going?
I'll start with the first question, and maybe somebody else can answer. I think the trash has always been in limbo in our minds of, I think it was supposed to just be an interim solution and it was going to go away. Our understanding, at least that was the direction for the master plan, was to assume it's not going to stay there forever. But as far as the synthetic turf, I think there were difference of opinions, but some were concerned about whether, given how close we are to, Fountain Creek, that, there may be, sustainability concerns associated with that. We did talk about different infills and stuff that, you wouldn't have to have rubber infill, that there's actually natural infill materials. I think, and then just the potential for, and I think the aesthetic value too, that does this park really want to have, plastic grass, if you will, in it was the concern. And then the cost, I think the cost was also, so I'd say, feel free, any of the other PARAB group that was there, but I think those were the three concerns that I heard.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Jan, you want to go?
Well, I think just an extension of the sustainability with the turf, it was also, there was a perception that there would be some chemical discharge for kids playing on it, people walking on it, dogs, and urinating and defecating, and it not being clean and hygienic. And so it kind of spiraled into those kinds of negativity, in my recollection.
Yeah, no,
Is that actually true, or that's all just people's perceptions that are false?
I think it can be, dealt with and mitigated. Yes, there is, the turf is manufactured, right? So it is a product that is not made of 100% sustainable materials.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say it's not going to have any 100% adverse impacts. Has it been, is there turf that, has, the properties that help mitigate, urine from dogs and those kind of things? There is, but I think there was, a particular council member that was not comfortable with that because that treatment is a chemical and I don't know all of the properties of all of that, but just speaking from what I heard, there was some concerns about the interaction of that, given
Yeah.
that people are sitting on it and having picnics on it and that kind of thing.
Mhm. Okay, thanks, Robin.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see, I'm just thinking as far as this plaza, I guess I want to see, is there anybody who has any thoughts of that? That's different than what we had shown before, where we kind of kept the small little plaza at the end of the bridge that almost acted as a little apron. Go ahead, Jan.
Seems like I'm volunteering. I like it. And I think especially if we don't have a water feature, it would be a nice focal point. We could maybe come up with something, and that could be the place where Tim was talking about some kind of sense of place, and an art installation or a mini music venue. So I like.
Anybody else? How's everyone feeling about the overall layout of the turf and the paths and the reduction of concrete?
I like it.
Yeah, looks
Looks
good to me.
good.
Okay.
Hi, Robin. This is Chris. I like
Hi,
it
Chris.
too. I just had one question about, that area where you were gonna knock down the curb and then like extend the sidewalk from the west end. Is that still happening?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we haven't touched anything that was getting improvements as part of the playground phase that was approved. So, and that was part of that one.
Okay, cool.
So and I should have said that, but the red dashed line is that area that was defined in the phase 2 playground improvement. So it was the extension of this walk over to the bridge over here, finishing out this walk, and then the playground improvements, and then also, Chris, that you just mentioned, this access that would cut a piece of the wall out and extend that walk up to that step.
Hi, Robin, this is Rebecca.
Hi.
How big is that area of the the different grasses?
Oh, I'm gonna have Mia measure that out.
Yes, I can.
For me.
I can calculate that.
I should have known, but
No, that's okay. I'm a little concerned because that's a significant area for natural grass, and I'm not 100% sure how well it's going to work overall in that space. And so those are two big chunks. And so maybe think about how we could do something with the smaller 5 potentially.
So the two of those combined together are a little over 5,000 square feet.
So not huge.
so
but
not significant. Yeah, I guess a good, if you look at the lawn that was installed as part of phase 1, it's almost equal
Mm.
to that between the two spaces anyway.
And is there this isn't necessarily the concern yet, but like, is there a backup if that grass doesn't work out?
I mean, I think that was a question that came up, and what if it's not successful, or from the heavy use or whatever, that and feel free to jump in for those that were there, but I think the importance of it being natural turf and dedicating the funds to replace or repair it as needed after events or something like that was something that the council was willing to support.
If they pay for it, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Feedback?
I appreciate you going back and making adjustments, and I think they're good ones.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So next, I guess the next steps then, or I just want to make sure there aren't any other comments or anything that we're missing, or I'm also happy to go. I didn't go into the detail nitty gritty of everything on the plan, just because you've seen it before, but I'm happy to do that as well. Before we talk about next steps, if anybody would like me to do that.
I think you addressed all the concerns that council had. And so I'm good with what you have. Anybody else? If not, you know, I'd say keep moving on here.
So is the next step to take this in front of council and get their blessing on it, or at least get their feedback on where we are right now?
I would say yes.
Okay.
And John, I think you said maybe June, maybe June or July, something like that.
I think I said May. I'd been talking May. May 9th, they have a work session. If it needs to be later, you know, I can put that out there and see what the availability is.
We're fine with that date if that works for the PARAB group.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that, May. Well, I guess, John, if you want to run it by
Yeah.
Denise and the mayor.
Yep. I'll follow back up with you all about May 9th is their work session.
And they actually have another work session also in May.
I think they also have May 16th.
Yeah, it's every other week, I think.
And so, John, is the thought to do the work session, make sure that they're good with it, make any modifications, or kind of see where we are at that point, and then I assume it will need to go for a public meeting from there?
Not necessarily, Robin.
It could probably go to council
Yeah,
without the public meeting.
Okay.
yeah. I would agree with that.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, Don, we can just coordinate on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just we did include the costs. I didn't really talk about that, but generally with the it's not a each line item isn't an apples to apples, because we're replacing synthetic turf with natural turf and those kind of things. But we're around like $130,000 reduction from the plan before. Again, it doesn't have a water feature cost in it or anything like that, but
Okay. And before you guys go, Robin and Mia, and everybody, this is on our PARAB reports. We applied for an OREC grant, and we weren't awarded those funds. However, City Council did allot $500,000 for our phase 2 to get it done. So that will move us right along here to get phase 2 done with their $500,000, and then whatever we have to make up in our budget, which is I think $250,000. But maybe we can get her all done for $500,000 if we go through each line item and take out things that we can maybe do down the road, or we can do in-house, something like that.
okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
all
Thank you
right.
all for your time.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, have a good night. We'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, so, does anybody have does anyone want any discussion about this before we move on? All right, if not, then we'll just wait for,
Janu, the only other thing I would
Yeah.
ask to include is,
Yeah.
instead of adding additional sculptures or adding additional elements that would just stack onto the cost,
yeah,
changing something that we've already done to accommodate those requests to make what's in the park more specific to the park, that sense of place.
can you give an example, Tim?
Yeah, what I've already discussed, or what I've already suggested, which would be replacing what we've already suggested as the play structure to be something more specific to Soda Springs Park to acknowledge that request for a sense of place. I think that would be, for me at least, that would probably be a less expensive option than building multiple things to try to accommodate that. And it would also maintain more open space in the park rather than adding additional things, not to mention adding additional things that we would then stress about vandalism and such in the future, which is always an issue. So for simplicity's sake, I would recommend making, I don't know what the right word is. It's not just a suggestion or an offer or a compromise solution to make a change to something that we've already included in the park. The play structure is the one thing that seems obvious to me to accommodate the sense of place, so to speak, rather than adding a water feature.
Okay. Okay.
I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks about that.
I
So
mean,
Tim, this is kind of like a Hail Mary to distract, to give them an option so that they're not so dead set on that water feature.
I'd be interested in what kind of thing you would suggest for a sense of place, Tim, because I don't disagree with that. And they've approved this. So if we do, as Colin said, a Hail Mary, what would that look like? That's what I'm having trouble.
Well, I think a starting place is what we've already seen. That was already an option when we looked at items to include in revamping the play structure.
but hey, Tim, what about, because I'm kind of with some of them saying like phase 2, it's already approved. I think the playground equipment is outdoorsy. It's pretty cool. And it goes along with what we've done in with the West End. But what if we
Which was soundly criticized by council, I should point out.
Yes, because it doesn't fit their aesthetic, fine, but that's not Manitou, like the whole Manitou. But what if because they're really creative, they're talking about musical instruments, which I'm not super sold on, but we could do art installations on that kind of east end, which hasn't been totally solidified just yet, right? So we could do some sort of art thing over there, or I don't know. I just would like to get the playground equipment going ASAP with the funds, and then we can kind of tweak some of those other components, because I don't know, I'm hoping that they will see reason with all the different costs, longevity of the water feature is not smart. So let's be hopeful, but I don't know. That's my thought.
Hey, this is Chris. I have an idea. What about a mural of a Soda Springs bottle, or kind of a thing where people could take selfies or whatever? Maybe on the bathroom, or I don't know if the bathroom is really a historic building, or if we could put if the HPC would be opposed to us painting a mural on it. I mean, I think we had talked about the pavilion, remember that kind of came up regarding the Iggy mural, and I was like, I don't know if the HPC would go for that, but maybe on the bathroom, it wouldn't be such a big deal. I don't know.
Well, yeah, yeah. My thought is let's just throw what we just reviewed tonight, throw it back in their court and then see what they say. Because if I remember correctly, I think that might have been maybe one, maybe two council people who had that whole feeling of sense of place. And so I'm not sure all of council felt the same way. So I don't know. I would say let's take what we have and throw it in their court and see what they say. And then
So Danu, one of the main drivers for the inclusion of the water feature from council was a sense of place idea.
when that was from one particular council member.
Okay.
Yeah. And everybody else, she felt really strongly about it and everybody else wanted more information.
Okay, so it is still a borderline thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Imagine
Am
if we
I,
lost allies now. We have 0 allies on council. We should remember that everybody initially voted against this. So just throwing that out there. If we want to move forward, we might want to just think about offering something.
right.
And not something
Yeah,
that
so I guess
adds
that,
overall something extra to our bottom line.
Go ahead,
right,
David.
so does our water feature have to be something like we think of, I understand, I come from Chicago, so you can imagine the water features I've been around, Buckingham Fountain and, all sorts of water features like that. But, the question is could it be a work of art? In other words, could it be like a little bit of a serenity pool, but in the center of the serenity pool, like my vision is like right off the top of my head. And again, I'm just brainstorming. If you did something like you do with champagne glasses, where you've got some water that comes in the top champagne glass and then it flows into all the other champagne glasses. So then it becomes, instead of using champagne glasses, we use some sort of very artistic bottle that obviously is super safe, but in the end it comes down and it ends up in this like just very shallow serenity pool that if somebody wanted to put their feet in, they could. But I wonder, are we just thinking too big in terms of a water feature? Is there a compromise, because we're supposed to be such an artsy, eclectic town, wouldn't that be more appropriate? Not everybody at once.
Well, PARAB all unanimously voted down the water feature because we felt like the costs of the water feature could be better put to use to finish the rest of the park instead of putting all of this money into this one particular feature. Now, I think some of the history as to why this one council member wants the water feature is because it was in the original plan from 2017 when this first came off the ground and we were getting all kinds of input from the public. So I think that's where she's coming from, which is her wanting to develop Soda Springs Park as a sense of place to bring out the historic nature of the park because it's like the oldest park in Manitou. But I also feel like that could also be achieved with a sculpture of some sort or some other something that doesn't have to be a water feature. But again, I sort of feel like at this point, I'd like to just stick with what we've come up with thus far and respond, which we have, to the feedback that City Council gave to us, and then just see what other thing they come up with. I guess, I don't know.
Well, and I think with, everything, we've made quite a few compromises, and it shows that we're listening and we're trying to follow what they want, but at the end of the day, we're trying to also do our job. So I don't know. I think we've already made some compromises.
Yeah.
And, right, just see what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't want to have to bend over too far backward already. I mean, because you're right, Rebecca, I feel like we've already compromised a lot here and we're revisiting it and I just, if they want just a simple like little fountain, yeah, it could be like 400,000 or whatever, but if they want like the sense of place that originally was like the whole water historic, Manitou Springs bottling plant, all that stuff, that's going to take a whole lot more money because we're going to have an artist and we're going to have to design it, then we're going to have to engineer it, and we're going to have to maintain it. It's a lot. So my thought is let's just kind of stick with what we've been working with, and if they want to do something else, then I guess deal with it.
Okay, well then one other thing, we've got a good range as far as installation costs go. Can we reach out to somebody in the Parks Department for Colorado Springs and find out what the Uncle Wilbur fountain?
Well, Tim, you found that out, didn't you?
Well,
Didn't you?
no. They had there was information about when that was redone that they spent $1 million on it to redo it, but I don't know what their yearly maintenance costs are, but I bet their Parks Department knows that.
Well, we can ask Cat Tudor.
Well, I don't know, John,
can-
do we have like that? Do you have dialogue with your counterpart there that we might be able to get a ballpark what they look at, and we might want to include that as well.
I could reach out to my old buddies who maintain that to find out what that costs.
Maybe find out maintenance, but I know Cat Tudor, when she did Smoke Rush, is the one who kind of funded that whole fountain, Uncle Wilbur.
Yeah, I'll find that out for you all.
Yeah, and Cat's right here in town now with Sunwater Spa. So, okay. Well, let's do that then. That's a good compromise to start there, because that's a huge custom kind of fountain. So. Okay, anything else before we move on, you guys? Okay, I'm gonna move on to reports then. I already told you about the ORAC grant. We didn't get that, but council earmarked $500,000 for our phase 2 that they approved. So we can get going with that. Creek Walk update. Jan, you went to a walkthrough with the Creek Walk people? You want to give us a brief update on that? First, tell everybody where that stretch of Creek Walk is.
Yeah, it starts from basically across the street to the west from the chamber, and then continuing west to the Chase Bank area. On that side of the road, on the north side of the road of Manitou Ave. And Dole Grabenik was there, Roy Cheney, Aaron Ringstrad, who's the new person that's the new at the planning department, Natalie from City Council, and Matt and other places. And then Travis Howard was the Jacobs engineering representative. I'd say we spent an hour and a half walking that area, looking at various places along the way. And the highlights from what that report says is that we're going to try to have an 8 to 10 foot wide path, rec path, along that whole area along Manitou Avenue. And it would basically, as Travis said from Jacobs Engineering, if you start on the north side of the present sidewalk and just go out 8 feet to possibly 10 feet out towards the road, that in essence will be the rec path. The power lines, everything is going to be undergrounded before any of this happens. So that won't be there. Matthew, the arborist, has gone through and assessed the trees. I think he said that there were 5 of the 7 that were dying because they had been wide, at the top to accommodate the power lines. And so that they were not going to last long. And from what Roy said, any of the problems that the city had with maintenance from windstorms, and probably John knows this too, came from those Siberian elms that were broken and came down on trees, and that's a parking area along there. So the thought was to remove those that are unsafe, see if we can save the other ones. Problematic with that too, as far as getting the rec path installed, that tends to weaken the root system, any of the trees that are already there as mature trees. So then it was to figure out, okay, then we need to re-tree some of the areas in some amenity strips is kind of what we're talking about. Re-tree and actually put in a bench and some kind of low voltage lighting so that there would be lighting along the pathway. The stairs going down to from that, basically Steve Wood and folks did the safe route to schools from Manitou Avenue that goes down the to the, well, the creek walk that goes by the creek itself and goes across the bridge over to the New Life Masonic Lodge area. Going to continue to use that and have a safe access up from the Manitou's Avenue side. So it will, the creek walk itself will just kind of merge into that. And all of that will go to the Chase Bank property and will kind of merge into what is now the asphalt parking lot area. And that's going to be, from what I understand, a hub for transit. So that will still have to be a walkway. But I think at one time, what is hoped for is that there will be a bridge across adjacent to the historic bridge that the road goes on for Old Man's Trail, but that will be a pedestrian bridge that will go over to Hiawatha Gardens. And then there'll be timber stairs that will link the existing natural trail down by the creek. So that will continue to get cleaned up a little bit. The overhanging dead limbs and stuff will be removed, from what I understand. And then that trail will have a timber stairs bringing us up to the avenue. Also, there are several spots where there needs to be some kind of fencing, and the recommendation that I made was that we use that black looped fencing that we have used in the other parks. And so Dole was going to try to get a pricing on that. And there was discussion about whether or not, and this came from Roy, whether or not that would be fenced with that looped fencing all along there. They wanted to keep any of the existing retaining natural path or fencing and retaining walls as much as possible, so that would still have that character from what's been there before. Questions?
You know, instead of using that wrought iron, black wrought iron, I think we should do like, what is that timber fencing?
Split rail.
Split rail, yeah, split rail, because they have a section of the split rail that goes along the creek walk path on Memorial, right below the train. I think that would be a little more appropriate to do split rail along that area instead of the black wrought iron.
Okay, I'll report that back.
Yeah. And of course, I like the 8 foot wide, but you know, that's either here or there at this point. So. Okay, any questions for Jan?
Anyone else?
Okay, if not, I'm going to move on to the tree group. John and Matthew and I and Mary Ellen met briefly about talking about the tree group, which is under PARAB's purview now, I guess. It's a subcommittee. And I had put out some feelers to the Manitou Garden Club and some other people to try to get some people interested to be part of a tree group so we can plant trees for Arbor Day to fulfill our Tree City USA requirement. So we are going to be planting trees primarily around the Shriver Park area and along the creek there, the creek bed area, to start trying to do some infill to replace the willows and cottonwoods that are getting aged and old. And that is April 29, the day after Arbor Day. So what I am looking for is to ask anybody on PARAB if you guys would want to be part of this tree planting group, or to, I know that Tim and Dave Crawford, you guys are going to be the liaisons to the tree group, but it's been kind of hard to kind of get everything organized. So I'm at least, I thought I can at least get the ball rolling with getting people involved and getting some kind of a basic core group of people to be part of the tree group. But then I started thinking that it would be great to open it up to everybody else and say, if you guys want to take the initiative to be a part of this tree planting Arbor Day event, and then ask other friends, neighbors, whoever, that you guys, whoever want to be part of the tree group, could be like team leaders. And then you guys could be like the word that would get out to whoever you know, and ask to help plant trees. And then we would have to get an idea of how many volunteers we would have for Arbor Day for planting, so that we would know how many trees that we were going to purchase, things like that. So I'm still kind of in the thought process of pulling that end of it together. But Matthew's going to pretty much take lead to get all of the supplies and the trees, and he's gonna I'm gonna look to him to kind of kick off the tree group and be the head lead on Saturday, the 29th of April. He'll do a demo of how to plant trees, and then I think there's going to be maybe 2 or 3 larger trees that he'll have some city equipment there to dig the hole with a backhoe digger, and then the smaller ones we can just hand dig. Am I capturing that correctly, John?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Should be a lot of fun.
So
Can you tell me what time we're thinking about, and are you going to have something formal that we could share if we think we have some neighbors that might be interested?
We haven't gotten that far as to the specifics. Matthew was going to put together a plan and have it ready by the end of this month of March. So I think right now where I'm focused is just trying to get the word out, find team leaders who want to partake and who want to bring other friends, neighbors on board to be part of this whole thing. And then I think we're going to have like a big tree group meeting so that everyone can be on the same page, and probably we could, John, Matthew, and Mary Ellen, we can meet again, just kind of review everything. And meanwhile, I think my goal and objective is just get the word out to everybody who is interested, and try to, like I say, form these little subgroups and have these like little team leaders, so that I can just target each team leader, and then the team leader can reach out to their friends, neighbors, whomever who wants to partake, and get the information out that way. And I'm open to suggestions, ideas, feedback. What do you guys think? Are any of you guys interested to partake in the tree planting group or the tree planting day? Because I'm not exactly sure where the tree planting group is gonna go after Arbor Day and we fulfill our Tree City USA. I mean, I think that's a whole nother conversation to have with people who might really want to be committed to be part of a tree group who's looking out for our well-being of our trees, etc. But again, that's a little bit down the road. And so where I'm just focused is to fulfill the Tree City USA requirement to do some tree planting on April 29th. So if you guys are interested and want to be part, just go ahead and email me and I'll get you in the loop and we can figure out where to go from there. Feedback, questions? Thoughts? Okay. Council liaison, I don't think Michelle's here tonight. We have the Open Space Advisory Committee update. That's in our packet. So let's move on to Park and Rec Department. John, Director's Report.
Okay, we've had a lot going on at the pool this month. First updates for the pool roof. I am collecting different bids from contractors for replacement of the roof on the structure. Council allocated $200,000 to go towards this work. So I'm expecting to have my bids back by the end of this week, with hope that a contractor would be on board to do their project in April. Moving down the list here, pool feasibility study, we've got that going again here. I've received the soils report that I have passed along to our folks preparing the feasibility study. The person that's been leading that for our design firm, they are retiring here in April. So they're going to try to do their best to get their deliverables wrapped up and sent to me in April. But if they're unable to get it done by then, they'll be passing that along to somebody else within their group. So for that, what we have left for deliverables, we've got 2 final concept floor plans. One that's going to include a location for a new building where the parking lot is currently, and another that shows a phased approach to adding on to the current pool building. The operational analysis would be included as well, along with presentation to you all and for council for the final compilation of the study. Moving along for the pool ADA restrooms project tomorrow, I'm going to be meeting with folks for their pre-bid meeting. So hoping that we get some contractors that are interested in the project. The pool ADA project, we're looking at kind of a similar time frame with the project to kick off hopefully here in April, and the pool being closed during the construction period. Any questions about the pool?
John, I have a quick question. So has it been determined that the parking lot is the only other place in the city where a new building could possibly be put, or is that's just an example?
That's just the example for the feasibility study as far as I understand.
That's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Okay, moving along here, the Fields ADA restroom update. I've got that RFB put together. So we'll be working on that here to get that out for bid. So we'll get that project moving along, and then staying in Fields Park, we got our estimate back for the fence. If we wanted to go with the black wrought iron, let me pull it up here. Our double hoop fence would be $9,940 installed. That includes it being painted. That includes the removal of the chain link fence. We're going to do that in-house, so it may be a little bit less than the 9,940 quoted. Any questions about fields?
The ADA is only for the existing bathroom. It doesn't include the addition. It doesn't pertain to the plans that we looked at. It's just basically taking the existing bathroom and making it ADA compliant, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
All right,
As well as the entry point to the restroom. So
okay.
a small, I believe it's a small ramp.
So it'll still just be like one toilet, one commode in there?
Yeah,
But so it would basically be, the doorway would be a 36-inch self-opening kind of door, so wheelchairs can pass through there and,
I believe so. I'd have to go back to the plan for those particulars to new, but it's got plans for ADA improvements.
okay. All right,
Moving along to the Parks Monthly Report. Just summing up some of the great work our team's been doing. Regular park maintenance, including picking up trash, replacing muck mitts, etc. Pre-treating sidewalks before storm events. We've been getting a lot of storms. We're ready for some snow to slow down a little bit. We're excited for that this week. We performed snow and ice removal during and after storm events. Prune shrubs at the Carnegie Library. The 2023 Parks Projects and Maintenance Plan. From what we've updated, we've generated approximately 75 work orders for completion. So quite a bit of work for our team to accomplish. The team dug a grave at the cemetery, painted soccer fields. That's the lines on our soccer fields for practice to begin. Attended diversity training, and for the Carnival event, additional weekend trash support. Staff also supported the event just in general. Any questions about the Parks Monthly Report?
no, I think we're
Good
good.
job on the snow removal, I would say. That's a lot of work. And they've been
Yes.
doing a great job.
Yeah,
Thanks. I'll pass that along.
yeah,
We're shorthanded right now too in streets and in parks, so everybody's pitching in.
all right. Okay, any other questions for John? All right, we've already gone over old business. We don't have any new business tonight. The other thing on our agenda is other business, which is the pavilion in Soda Springs Park. We got some feedback and requests to have the pavilion be opened. And I believe that the pavilion is now being opened. Is that correct, John? You want to
That's
fill us
right.
in
So-
on that?
Yeah, that's right. So the pavilion is open now as beginning last weekend. So the pavilion's open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. During the winter hours. We're going to reevaluate in 30 days to see how things are going. And, you know, with plans to continue the process of locking it up nightly at 6 p.m. during winter hours. During the summer part of the year, we would look at expanding those hours.
Okay, and then what about the lights and anything like that? Any updates on that, or are they just gonna kind of like take it day by day?
Yeah, we're looking at different options for light protection. Doing something to, you know, help curb the vandalism cost associated with that.
Mhm.
We've also placed some signage about the area being under surveillance. And we have some surveillance cameras that we'll be installing as well, just to keep track of ongoings of the area.
This is
Sure.
Chris. I just had a question about the pavilion and is the fact that it's the ADA accessible walkway, is that are you taking that into consideration with like the keeping it open?
How do you mean, Chris?
Well, it's the only ADA accessible walkway through the park.
For a wheelchair?
Because the bridge on the west end isn't ADA accessible. And so that was one of the reasons why we had discussed previously that the pavilion needs to be open.
Okay, well, that's certainly something that we should take under consideration as well. Right now, what we're really looking at in terms of the pavilion is with regards to safety, of course, and vandalism. So we're all hopeful that we're able to keep the pavilion open, of course. In these measures right now, we're just taking to see what we can do to help operate it in a way that we're hoping to be successful.
Mhm. And just to add a little side note, this historically has always been a problem with the pavilion.
Yeah.
All of the issues that are happening now have always been historically a longstanding problem and an issue. And if it's any kind of consolation, it used to be a whole lot worse. So it has gotten better.
And then one other question I had, actually going back to Fields Park, is I thought that we were all supposed to walk through the park and take a look at the fencing and come with our sort of input on that. And I know that John was gonna definitely get the estimate on the wrought iron fence, but that was just kind of like information gathering and that we weren't sure if we were actually gonna go that route. But correct me if I'm wrong.
At this point, the quote that I provided, as far as I understand, is just for your informational purpose.
Okay. Okay, because I did walk by the park and take note of what it looks like. I'm not sure if anyone else did or if anyone else has thoughts on that.
I think, didn't we have a consensus that we didn't like the chain link fence, but we felt like we needed some kind of a barrier to keep the children somewhat confined within a safe area? And so we talked about doing the black wrought iron in lieu of the chain link fence.
Danu, my opinion is, I don't think we need any fencing, but I think I would defer to people that have kids and their opinion of that park in relationship to where the parking lot is. And I think there's enough shrubbery, et cetera, so that they don't have balls going into the creek. But I don't know. I just think it'd be a lot easier not to have any fencing.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I did go look at it the other day. I agree that chain link fencing looks terrible and it looks out of place. I agree with that black double hoop fencing that you're all talking about. And I think a compromise could be made. There's one piece of that that's like in between sort of where the bathrooms and the playground area is. And I certainly don't think that part needs to be there. I think we could have the back part that kind of sets away from the creek area just to keep kids from running towards the creek. I think that the parking lot side, there's benches and that's where the parents will tend to sit. And so that kind of keeps them enclosed. So my main concern, Jan, I guess would be to have a fence kind of towards the creek area there, but I think it can definitely be reduced. And I think that getting the chain link out of there will make it look a lot nicer.
I think having the chain link out of there first, we might have a better idea of how it would look too, and whether we can have, as you mentioned, Colin, just that one section. Is that going to look just fine, or is it going to look kind of incomplete? I don't know. I think, yeah, I think, John, if the chain link fence can be removed once it's the right season to do that, we might have a better idea.
Well, we're all over the map here because I went down there too, and I feel like the chain link is already there and I feel like it looks fine. And it's like the tennis courts already have chain link fence. So it's kind of like matches, but like, it's just like a more economical option to just kind of leave what's already there. And I think more so than the creek, the recreation path with people zooming by on bikes, skateboards, whatever. I would hate for a small child to wander over there when a parent's looking at their phone on the bench or whatever, you know, I mean, that's like real life, right? There was a dad there with a small child, and yeah, it kind of corrals them and keeps them in the playground, which I know we don't have at the other two playgrounds, like Memorial or Soda Springs. But I think just with the proximity to the parking lot and the rec path and the creek and the dogs and the whatever, I think some type of corral, whether it's chain link or the wrought iron, something is necessary.
Well, and yeah, and I should clarify what I'm saying, Chris. I meant the creek side where the bike path is, because I know that people go really fast down that bike path. I go pretty fast myself, and that's a little bit different maybe than what we have in some of our other park areas.
And I think by not having any fencing there, and with the curves, maybe that would encourage some people because I agree, there's some cycles that go by there, and there are people on walking their dogs, there are people that have strollers, and I think we need to have a culture around that area for people to slow down. So I would prefer that we would at least to take the chain link off and then see what we think about it. And we can always put something else on there. Even more chain link, Chris.
Well, we could also paint something on the bike path itself, Jan, to your point, right? Like a thing that says slow down during these curves or something like that. You know?
I think that'd be a good idea to start with. We'll see if that works, but yeah.
And I think, you know, the chain link only goes on two sides of that park. It goes along by the creek there, and then it goes along the back area there that separates it from like the tennis court area. So it's just really two sides. But John, I talked to Becca Sickberg, and she said that at least the two sections, those two panels, should probably be removed at the end of April, I believe and that's what she had discussed with you, I think.
Yeah, we have plans to remove the fence then April.
Oh, so you're gonna just take it all out in April, then the end of April, while you guys are out there?
That was our plan.
Yeah, okay.
And I think once we have the install of that art piece, we might have a better idea too about what would look good or whether we need it. Maybe that would cause people to slow down and create some safety too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, see, I don't know how much lead time would Glaser, however you say them, what kind of lead time they do need, but I sort of feel like I kind of do like the idea of having some kind of a perimeter around the play area, just to make it a little easier for parents to kind of keep track of their kids.
Could a bench work there?
I'm sorry, Tim?
Could a bench work in that place? Would that?
Well, there's two benches now, but then there's going to be that huge big art installation that's going to go right down there in the lower corner where that existing plastic signage is, and it'll go in that one little corner there. There'll be a 6-foot round pedestal they got to pour there, and then there's going to be an art installation that'll have, it's like a giant flower that stands like 11 feet tall, and then they have like these petals that are going to be seats that the parents can sit on. And then we'll also have the existing benches that are already there on the outskirts of where there isn't a fence. So parents can kind of sit there and watch their kids and monitor the kids.
My vote is, let's wait until everything's done as far as install, and then we might have a better idea about what would look good and where.
Okay, anybody else?
That makes sense to me, Jan.
Okay. All right then, so, I guess, John, you just let us know, end of April, the fence will get yanked out. You guys go by and have a look at it. And you all know what black hoop fencing we're talking about. It's all the fencing that's existing in our parks now. So. Okay,
And April is when the art installation is going to be?
I think
Yeah.
Becca said May.
May.
Yeah, well, it's gonna start because they gotta pour the footer and all that good stuff and excavate and everything like that, so. Okay. All right. Anything else anyone wants to talk about, add to, input?
Danu, sorry, one quick question.
Yeah,
So we always have on our agenda the council liaison, but I don't feel like our council liaison is here very often. Is that an optional thing or?
well, I just actually met with our council member who was tasked with getting feedback from the groups and boards about our liaison, and some of the feedback that I gave to her was that I thought it was really important that the role of a liaison should be more clearly defined, and that I felt like our groups should set expectations of what we want from our liaisons. And also, I think that what I gathered or kind of heard was that a lot of the council liaisons were really being showing up for monthly meetings for the assigned groups that they were assigned to be liaisons for. So I don't exactly know. Technically they're supposed to come to all of our meetings, but we all have different lives, but so I don't know what the criteria is that council makes for their liaisons.
Okay, so there is, as far as you know, there's no clear guidelines.
As that's kind of like sort of the feeling that I'm sort of getting from them. Now, we used to have Nancy Fortune be our liaison, and she was really good about coming to all our meetings. But
Okay, it just, yeah, it seems like that would be a really helpful thing.
well, yeah, because a good example I gave was our liaison could be acting as a way for council to know what we're doing, to be our representative to communicate as to things that we're doing and working on projects, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay, well, thanks.
yeah. So, anything else? Anybody?
So Danu, who did you talk to?
Nancy Fortune.
Oh,
Yeah, she met with all the chairs of the boards, give feedback, see where they can improve, see what can be worked on, etc., with all the commissions and boards.
Well, it's funny because that was one of our asks of better communication between the board and city council, and then she doesn't show up. So that shows a lack of respect again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see where things go with expectations, because it's not just our experience with Nancy, but for as long as I've been on PARAB, we've had, maybe not at every meeting, but at most meetings, we've had a council liaison be present. And I mean, even some asynchronous communication, or at least an acknowledgement that somebody's reading the minutes, maybe some offering suggestions. I would take any of that. I understand people are busy, and council is a huge time commitment, but there's got to be something in between. So for everybody else's questions, yeah, what we're dealing with now is definitely a break from tradition in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. So, yeah, so basically gave Nancy that kind of feedback. So we'll see where it goes. So, all right. If we don't have anything else, then I'm gonna move to adjourn our meeting for tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Donna.
All right,
Thanks,
Thank
Danu.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
all right. We'll see you next month, if not sooner. Remember, if you want to be part of the tree group, let me know.